All right, time for reading lesson 17, compare and contrast. I know you've been thinking about compare and contrast. Generally it means what are the similarities and what are the differences. Usually we look at what the text actually says, but in this case we're going to actually talk a little bit more about how the sources are laid out, author techniques, and we're going to add a few extra things into there. Prompts to help you compare and contrast. We're going to look at two different sources. One of them is a science textbook, which is a great source in grade 5. It's written to your level. We've already talked a lot about the author techniques of them using pictures and subtitles and chapter numbers, and also they put in vocabulary like pollution here, and they're always explaining things. The other source I'm going to use is an internet source, but I'm just going to read from the first source. Farming affects the geosphere. Rich topsoil is often blown away by the wind when it is plowed. Running water can wash away topsoil when crops are planted on sloping land. Some farmers avoid this by contour plowing. They plow the soil in curved bands that follow the shape of the land. By doing this, running water does not wash away topsoil as easily. Contour plowing reduces soil erosion. It helps the soil hold moisture and nutrients. Tree farmers also prevent soil erosion when they cut only a few trees instead of a forest, clear-cutting the entire forest. This method is time-consuming and expensive, but it leaves tree roots that hold the soil. And here they got a caption too. I'm going to put that on there, see? And it says, farmers are developing different methods to reduce farming's effect on Earth's systems. Contour plowing reduces soil erosion and helps the soil hold moisture. So that's one source. Then I wanted to say, that's the farmers doing a pretty good job, and I'm a farmer's kid too, so I wanted to give credit to the farmers. I know a lot of this chapter in science talked about the negative effects of farming, so I thought I would look up the positive effects of farming, and I just went to this source here, and it has impacts of agriculture on the environment. Positive impacts of anyway. And then they talked about the historical parts and various tasks, but then without need to move to better hunting grounds or spend time on dangerous quests after seasonal sources of food, early humans were able to settle and use their energy towards manufacturing sophisticated tools and building permanent dwellings. Now, when done right, farmers could actually bring about many positive environmental impacts of agriculture that may enrich local biodiversity, so they're making more animals and more living things, and boost vital ecosystem services. How does agriculture? Then it goes on. Agriculture inspires people, and they've got this. Farmers have shaped and maintained the unique look of rural areas for millennia, thousands of years that is. Farmers create wonderful variety of landscapes, ranging from beautiful blossoming orchards and vineyards to fields of golden wheat. And is not only 45.7% of people. Now we talked about numbers. Remember we said let's get some data. Data is numbers. Here it is. 45.7% of people worldwide that live in the countryside that enjoy it. But the rest of the population living in urban areas enjoy agricultural landscapes as a place to reconnect with nature. So now we've talked about a couple of sources, and now we're going to compare and contrast them using these guidelines that they gave us, these prompts. So here it is. The two sources are similar in the way that each of them, so we could talk about similar. Now, in both cases, we said, what? The science textbook. I'm going to just make this a little bit different, similar. Okay. Both texts
talk about the benefits or positive. Both mentioned the biosphere can be protected and diversified. helping more plants and animals survive. Especially people. Okay?
So I've got the science, so I'm going to put this, go ahead and make this bold here, because I like this purple highlighting. I'll do that too. Okay, and then I'll go back to look at this one here. Both sources also, we could talk about both sources also. Yes, little Johnny. Yeah, they both talked about like they take their plows and they drive around the hill and they make those kind of circles and it stops the water. That was pretty cool. That's right. Both sources did mention about contour plowing. We could see the different hills in that. So we got two things they did. However, the sources differ in that. And then we would have to look at what are some of the differences in how the sources look. So the first one again, farming and the geosphere, they talked a lot about just how to plow the land and to do different things like that. But they differed in that the second source was, especially the part that we read, talked more about that it makes it look beautiful. So this was just talking about, oh, it's so pretty to look at and stuff. The first one was really talking about how to save water and save the soil so that things can grow in it. The second one is saying, oh, look at how farmers have made it look so beautiful. So that is quite a difference. So if I go back to that slide, and I am, and then I might say the differences. This is the contrast for those people. The textbook talked mainly about how the farmers use special techniques to help save the topsoil and trap moisture. The internet source talked about how farmers take great care to make the land look beautiful and appealing. On the other hand, did we have on the other hand? This text says, but this text says also, while the first author's source, the second author's source says this. It just gives you some different ways of starting your sentences. This is also a compare and contrast thing. Now, where are you going to write this? We are using those digital reading notebooks. So I'm just going to go ahead and cough up little Johnny's digital reading notebook. Okay, I'm just going to talk a little bit about switching from March the 30th to March 16th. It's now March 30th. You have to grab that little tab there, March 30th. And you click on it, then you're going to get a new sheet. And then you should slide it over into the prime position. So when you open up your digital reading notebook, it's right there. That's the best, I know that. Okay, as I said, we're going to link these. We're going to link these with our source. Now the textbook, I'm not going to worry about. That's good enough. We said the science textbook, that's linked enough. The internet source, we just remember that Control K. First we go to our internet source. We copy it, Control C, and then we go to this one here. We just have to click on the box, Control K, and then Control V, and we apply it, and it's linked. Now, I've gone through the trouble of already typing this up, so I'm just going to go ahead and copy this as it is here. Control C, and then I'm going to put it into here. Well, basically, that's your reading strategy today. So we could just call this compare. And we don't even have to worry about a summary because it's not really a summary, it's compare and contrast. And Control V, and that's it. And that is all you'd have to do to reading. You have the similarities and you have the differences in how these are. That's about it for reading. Compare similarities and differences. Find two sources on the same topic. You've been working on it in synthesizing text and subtext. Just a matter of reading two topics and comparing and contrasting them. That's what the last three lessons in reading have been about. Comparing and contrasting two different sources on a similar topic. Just keep reading and good luck.